In a quiet little town nestled between rolling hills and endless fields, life moved at a predictable pace. People woke up early, went to work, came home to their families, and spent their evenings watching TV or chatting over dinner. It was the kind of place where nothing exciting ever happened, until one fateful evening when the sky itself seemed to split open. Ethan Carter was an ordinary man living in this unremarkable town. At 29 years old, he worked as a mechanic at a local garage, fixing cars and occasionally tinkering with old bicycles for fun. He wasn't rich or famous, but everyone liked him because he had a kind heart. If someone needed help changing a tire or carrying groceries, Ethan would drop whatever he was doing to lend a hand. His neighbors often joked that if there were more people like Ethan in the world, it would be a much better place. On the night everything changed, Ethan was walking home after a long day at work. The air smelled fresh, tinged with the faint scent of rain that hadn't yet arrived. The streets were empty except for a few stray dogs sniffing around trash bins. As he passed by Mrs. Thompson's flower shop, he paused for a moment to admire the vibrant blooms spilling out of wooden crates outside. It was peaceful, almost serene, a perfect end to an otherwise ordinary day. But then, something strange began to happen. At first, it was just a slight shimmer in the sky, like heat waves rising from hot asphalt on a summer afternoon. Ethan stopped walking and tilted his head upward, squinting against the fading light of the setting sun. The shimmer grew brighter, spreading across the horizon until it looked like the entire sky was alive with energy. A low hum filled the air, vibrating through his chest and making his skin prickle with unease. People began stepping out of their homes, drawn by the unnatural glow overhead. Children pointed excitedly at the sky while parents exchanged nervous glances. Some whispered about UFOs or government experiments, but no one really knew what was happening. The usual sounds of the evening, the chirping of crickets, the distant bark of a dog, were drowned out by the growing hum, which now felt almost deafening. Then, without warning, the sky parted. It wasn't like clouds breaking apart. It was as though the very fabric of the heavens had been torn open. From this gaping rift emerged enormous ships, each one larger than any skyscraper Ethan had ever seen. They were sleek and metallic, glowing faintly with pulsating lights that shifted colors in hypnotic patterns. The sight was both breathtaking and terrifying, leaving Ethan rooted to the spot as his mind struggled to comprehend what he was seeing. The ships hovered silently above the town, casting long shadows over the streets below. Their sheer size made even the tallest buildings seem insignificant, and the weight of their presence pressed down on everyone who dared to look up. For a moment, time seemed to stand still. No one spoke. No one moved. It was as if the entire town was holding its breath, waiting to see what these otherworldly visitors would do next. Panic erupted when one of the ships emitted a beam of intense blue light, scanning the area below. People screamed and ran in every direction, seeking shelter wherever they could find it. Cars screeched to a halt as drivers abandoned their vehicles in the middle of the road. Mothers grabbed their children and bolted into nearby houses, slamming doors shut behind them. The once peaceful evening descended into chaos. Ethan, however, didn't run. He stood frozen, staring at the massive ships with a mixture of awe and fear. Part of him wanted to flee like everyone else, but another part, a deeper, instinctual part, told him to stay put. Something about the situation felt different. These weren't invaders bent on destruction, at least not yet. There was an intelligence behind those machines, a purpose that hadn't fully revealed itself. As the initial wave of panic subsided, Ethan noticed something unusual near the edge of town. On top of a two-story building perched precariously close to the edge was a small figure. At first glance, it looked like a cat, but as Ethan squinted, he realized it wasn't any animal he'd ever seen before. Its body was covered in smooth, iridescent scales that shimmered in the dim light, and its large almond-shaped eyes reflected the glow of the star destroyers above. It let out a high-pitched chirp, its tiny frame trembling with fear. Without thinking, Ethan took a step forward. The creature was clearly stranded, and judging by the way it kept glancing nervously at the ships above, it belonged to them. But How had it ended up here? Had it fallen from one of the ships, or had it been left behind during some sort of reconnaissance mission? Ethan's thoughts raced as he weighed his options. Running away would be the safest choice, but the thought of leaving the frightened creature to fend for itself didn't sit right with him. He couldn't explain why, but he felt a strange connection to it, as if fate had placed him in this exact moment for a reason. Taking a deep breath, Ethan made up his mind. Ignoring the shouts and cries of the townspeople around him, he began moving toward the building. Each step felt heavier than the last, not because of physical exertion, but because of the weight of what he was about to do. He knew the risks. He could get hurt or worse, but he also knew he couldn't live with himself if he turned his back on someone, or something, in need. When he reached the base of the building, Ethan glanced up again. The alien was still there, clinging to the edge of the roof with what appeared to be webbed paws. Its chirps grew louder, more desperate, as if it sensed Ethan's approach. For a brief moment, their eyes met, and Ethan saw something in those wide, luminous orbs that struck a chord deep within him. Trust. Summoning every ounce of courage he had, Ethan started climbing. The building's rough brick surface provided enough grip for his hands and feet, but the higher he went, the more aware he became of the danger surrounding him. Debris rained down from the sky as the Star Destroyers continued their scans, forcing him to dodge falling rocks and shards of metal. His muscles burned with effort, and sweat dripped into his eyes, but he refused to stop. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Ethan reached the roof. The alien let out a soft cry as he approached, its body quivering with exhaustion. Carefully, Ethan extended his hand, speaking in a soothing tone, despite knowing the creature probably couldn't understand him. "It's okay," he murmured. "I'm here to help." To his relief, the alien didn't resist. Instead, it crawled cautiously onto his palm, its weight surprisingly light. Up close, Ethan could see intricate patterns etched into its scales, glowing faintly in the dim light. Its chirp softened, almost sounding like gratitude. Just as Ethan secured the creature against his chest, a sudden flash of light illuminated the rooftop. One of the Star Destroyers had locked onto their position, its beam slicing through the air mere inches away. Ethan's heart pounded as he realized they were running out of time. Clutching the alien tightly, he turned and began his descent, praying he wouldn't lose his footing. By the time he reached the ground, the entire town was watching. Dozens of pairs of eyes followed him as he stepped into the open, cradling the alien protectively. The Star Destroyers loomed above, their lights pulsating faster now, as if responding to the reunion below. Ethan didn't know what would happen next, but one thing was certain. His life, and perhaps the fate of humanity, had changed forever. Ethan stood in the middle of the deserted street, his breath coming in short gasps as he clutched the trembling alien to his chest. The tiny creature, no larger than a house cat, but infinitely more mysterious, nestled against him, its shimmering scales glowing faintly under the unnatural light cast by the Star Destroyers above. Around him, the townspeople had retreated into their homes or taken cover behind cars and fences, peeking out cautiously at the scene unfolding before them. No one dared to approach Ethan, not because they feared him, but because they were too terrified of what might happen next. The Star Destroyers loomed ominously overhead, their massive forms blotting out the stars. Their lights pulsed rhythmically, almost like a heartbeat, and it seemed as though they were scanning the area with renewed intensity. Every few seconds, beams of blue and green energy shot down from the ships, sweeping across rooftops, streets, and fields. It was clear that these machines were searching for something, or someone, and Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that all eyes were on him. Despite the chaos around him, Ethan remained remarkably calm. His heart raced, yes, but his mind was focused. He glanced down at the alien cradled in his arms, whose chirps had softened into gentle coos. Its large, luminous eyes blinked slowly, as if trying to convey gratitude. Ethan didn't understand how or why, but he felt certain that this small being trusted him completely, and somehow that trust gave him strength. As he looked up again, Ethan noticed something new. A smaller craft detached itself from the belly of one of the largest star destroyers, descending rapidly toward the ground. It moved with precision, hovering silently before finally touching down in the middle of the street just a few dozen yards away. The crowd gasped audibly, some people retreating further while others pressed closer, unable to resist the urge to witness whatever came next. From the craft emerged several figures clad in sleek metallic armor. They were tall, much taller than any human, and their movements were fluid yet deliberate, exuding an aura of power and authority. Each figure carried a weapon that glowed faintly, emitting a low hum that resonated through the air. Their helmets obscured their faces, leaving only narrow slits where their eyes should be. To Ethan, they looked both awe-inspiring and terrifying, like ancient warriors brought to life in a sci-fi movie. The armored beings spread out in a semicircle, forming a perimeter around Ethan. Their weapons were raised, pointed directly at him, but there was no immediate aggression in their stance. Instead, they seemed cautious, studying him carefully. Ethan swallowed hard, his grip tightening slightly around the alien. He knew he was outnumbered and outmatched, but he refused to show fear. Slowly, he straightened his posture, holding the creature protectively against his chest. For a moment, everything was still. The only sounds were the distant hum of the star destroyers and the occasional rustle of leaves stirred by the wind. Then one of the armored figures stepped forward, lowering its weapon slightly. Ethan's pulse quickened as the figure approached, stopping just a few feet away. Through the narrow slit in its helmet, Ethan thought he saw a flicker of curiosity, or perhaps recognition. Suddenly, the alien in Ethan's arms let out a soft, melodic chirp. The sound was unlike anything Ethan had ever heard before, filled with warmth and emotion. The armored figure froze, tilting its head slightly as if listening intently. Another chirp followed, louder this time, and the figure lowered its weapon, completely. Behind it, the other armored beings mirrored the action, their glowing weapons dimming as they relaxed their stance. It was then that Ethan realized the significance of the creature in his arms. This wasn't just some stray alien left behind, it was important, perhaps even vital. The way the armored figures reacted to its chirps made it clear that this little being held immense value to them. Maybe it was a leader, a scientist, or even a child of great importance. Whatever the case, Ethan understood that he had unknowingly saved someone irreplaceable. One of the armored figures gestured toward Ethan, and a strange device attached to its wrist began emitting a series of clicks and whirs. Moments later, a voice, deep, mechanical, and heavily accented, spoke in halting English. "You protected our leader?" Ethan blinked in surprise. He hadn't expected communication, let alone such direct acknowledgement. Taking a deep breath, he nodded slowly. "Yes," he replied, his voice steady despite the surreal situation. "I saw it stranded on the roof and I couldn't leave it there." The armored figure tilted its head again, as if processing his words. Then, to Ethan's astonishment, it stepped closer and extended a hand, not aggressively but in what appeared to be a gesture of gratitude. Hesitantly, Ethan shifted the alien to one arm and reached out with his free hand. When their hands touched, a surge of warmth passed between them, accompanied by a faint buzzing sensation. It wasn't unpleasant, rather it felt oddly comforting, like a reassurance that everything would be okay. The armored figure withdrew its hand and spoke again, this time with more confidence. "You have done us a great service. We will not forget your courage." Ethan didn't know how to respond. Part of him wanted to ask questions, to demand answers about who they were, why they were here, and what they planned to do next, but another part of him instinctively understood that now wasn't the time. Instead, he simply nodded again, clutching the alien tighter as if to emphasize its importance. The armored figure turned to its companions and exchanged a series of rapid-fire clicks and whistles, which Ethan assumed was their native language. After a brief exchange, one of the figures stepped forward carrying a small, translucent container. It opened the lid and gestured for Ethan to place the alien inside. Though reluctant to let go, Ethan knew this was the right thing to do. Gently, He transferred the creature into the container, watching as it curled up comfortably on the soft padded interior. Once the alien was secure, the armored figures formed a tight circle around the container, shielding it from view. One of them activated a device on its wrist, and within moments a shimmering portal opened in the air beside them. The portal glowed with the same iridescent hues as the alien's scales, pulsating gently as if alive. Without hesitation, the armored figures stepped through the portal, disappearing along with the container and the alien inside. Ethan stood rooted to the spot, staring at the empty space where the portal had been. For a moment he felt a pang of loss, as if he'd said goodbye to an old friend. But then, reality hit him like a tidal wave. He had just interacted with extraterrestrial beings. He had saved one of their leaders, or so they claimed, and earned their gratitude in return. What did that mean for him? For humanity? Before he could dwell on those thoughts, the remaining star destroyers began to ascend, their massive forms lifting higher and higher until they disappeared into the rift in the sky. The rift itself closed moments later, leaving the night sky dark and silent once more. It was as if nothing had happened, except for the fact that everyone in the town had witnessed it. Slowly, people began emerging from their hiding places, their faces pale with shock and disbelief. Some approached Ethan cautiously, asking questions. He couldn't answer. Others simply stared, their expressions a mix of admiration and confusion. Word spread quickly, and soon reporters arrived, eager to document the unbelievable events that had unfolded in their quiet little town. But Ethan didn't stay to answer questions or pose for photos. Exhausted and overwhelmed, he slipped away, unnoticed, heading straight home. As he walked, his mind replayed every detail of the encounter: the shimmering sky, the towering ships, the aliens' trusting eyes, and the armored figure's unexpected gratitude. He couldn't explain why he had risked his life for a creature he didn't even know, but deep down, he knew it was the right thing to do. When Ethan finally reached his house, he collapsed onto the couch, still wearing his dusty work clothes. Outside, the world buzzed with excitement and speculation, but inside all was quiet. For the first time since the sky had parted, Ethan allowed himself to relax. He didn't know what the future held, but one thing was certain: his life. And perhaps the lives of everyone on Earth would never be the same again. Little did he know, the aliens weren't finished with him yet. The next morning, Ethan woke up to the sound of helicopters hovering above his neighborhood. At first, he thought it was just another dream, a continuation of the surreal events from the previous night. But as he opened his eyes and looked out the window, he realized the world outside had changed dramatically. News vans lined the streets, their satellite dishes pointed skyward like metal mushrooms. Reporters shouted questions at anyone who dared step outside, while camera crews filmed every movement with feverish intensity. Ethan groaned and rubbed his temples. He hadn't slept well. His mind replayed the alien encounter over and over, again leaving him restless and uneasy. The weight of what he'd done and what he'd witnessed pressed heavily on him. Saving that alien creature felt right in the moment, but now, as the reality of the situation sank in, he couldn't help but wonder, what had he gotten himself into? He got dressed quickly, choosing a plain t-shirt and jeans to avoid drawing attention. Unfortunately, blending in proved impossible. As soon as he stepped outside, a swarm of reporters descended upon him, shoving microphones in his face and firing off rapid-fire questions. "Mr. Carter, is it true you saved an alien last night? Did they communicate with you? What did they say? Do you think they'll come back?" Ethan raised his hands defensively, trying to shield himself from the barrage. "I don't know anything," he said firmly, though his voice betrayed his exhaustion. I saw something, in trouble, and helped it, that's all." His answer only fueled more speculation. By noon, videos of his brief statement were trending online, and news outlets around the world were calling him the man who saved an alien. Some praised him as a hero, others accused him of colluding with extraterrestrial invaders. Conspiracy. Theories ran rampant, ranging from claims that Ethan was secretly part of a government experiment to absurd suggestions that he was an alien himself. Despite the chaos, Ethan tried to go about his day as normally as possible. He headed to the garage where he worked, hoping to lose himself in the familiar rhythm of fixing cars, but even there, he found no peace. Customers gawked at him, whispering behind his back. His boss, Mr. Henderson, pulled him aside and gave him a sympathetic pat on the shoulder. "Take the rest of the week off," he said. "Things are intense right now." Ethan nodded gratefully and left the garage, unsure of where to go or what to do. He wandered aimlessly through the town, avoiding the main streets where reporters still lingered. Eventually, he found himself at the edge of a quiet park, sitting on a bench beneath the shade of an old oak tree. It was here, surrounded by chirping birds and rustling leaves, that he finally allowed himself to process everything. What struck him most wasn't the fear or the confusion. It was the memory of the alien's eyes. Those wide, luminous orbs had conveyed so much emotion, despite the vast differences between their species. In that moment, Ethan hadn't seen an alien. He'd seen a living being in need of help, and helping it had felt natural, almost instinctual. As he sat lost in thought, a sudden vibration in his pocket startled him. Pulling out his phone, he saw a text message from an unknown number. "Come alone, midnight, Old Thompson Field." Ethan frowned, rereading the message several times. Old Thompson Field was an abandoned airstrip on the outskirts of town, long since overtaken by weeds and graffiti. Who would send him such a cryptic message? Was it a prank, a trap, or something else entirely? For a moment, he considered ignoring it. After everything that had happened, the last thing he needed was more trouble. But curiosity gnawed at him. If this was related to the aliens, or if it could provide answers, he owed it to himself to investigate. That night, under the cover of darkness, Ethan made his way to the field. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the cracked asphalt. The air was cool and still, broken only by the occasional hoot of an owl. As he approached the center of the field, he noticed a faint glow emanating from the ground. Squinting, he realized it was coming from a small device, a glowing orb about the size of a baseball. Before he could examine it further, a soft hum filled the air. The same shimmering portal he'd seen the night before materialized out of thin air, its iridescent hues pulsating gently. Ethan's heart raced as 3 armored figures emerged from the portal, their metallic suits gleaming in the moonlight. They moved with deliberate grace, stopping a few feet away from him. One of them stepped forward, removing its helmet to reveal a face that was both alien and strangely human-like. Its skin was pale blue, with intricate patterns etched into its cheeks and forehead. Large, almond-shaped eyes glimmered with intelligence, and its lips curved into a slight smile. "Ethan Carter," it said in clear, accented English. "We meet again." Ethan swallowed hard, his mind racing. Who are you?" he managed to ask. "I am Commander Kale," the figure replied, "and I owe you my gratitude. You saved our leader, the one you call the alien, from certain peril. Without your intervention, we might not have recovered her in time." "Her?" Ethan blinked in surprise. He hadn't considered the possibility that the alien was female, though now that he thought about it, her demeanor had been gentle yet regal. Kale continued, "Her name is Leora. She is young, but her potential is immense. She carries within her the knowledge and wisdom of our people. Losing her would have been catastrophic." Ethan nodded slowly, absorbing the information. "I didn't know any of that," he admitted. "I just saw someone in trouble and acted." Kyle inclined his head. "That is why we are here. Your actions have shown us that humanity possesses qualities we did not anticipate. Compassion, courage, and selflessness. These traits are rare among the civilizations we have encountered." Ethan felt a lump form in his throat. "So, what happens now? Are you going to leave us alone? Or—" He trailed off, unsure how to finish the question. Kale's expression softened. "We came to observe your world to determine whether your species posed a threat to the galaxy. Our initial findings were inconclusive. Humans are capable of great destruction, but also of extraordinary kindness. Last night you tipped the scales in your favor. Relief washed over Ethan, but it was short-lived. Does that mean you'll stay? Will you share your technology with us? Help us? Kyle hesitated, exchanging a glance with the other two figures. Change must come gradually, he explained. Giving advanced technology to a species unprepared for it could lead to disaster. However, we are willing to offer guidance to ensure humanity evolves in harmony with the universe. Ethan mulled this over. It wasn't the instant utopia some might have hoped for, but it was a start. And me? He asked quietly. What about me? Kyle smiled, a gesture that seemed both alien and deeply human. You will serve as a bridge between our peoples. We will monitor your progress and intervene if necessary, but ultimately, the future lies in your hands. With that, Kale extended his arm, holding out a small, glowing crystal. This is a gift, he said. It contains knowledge, seeds of understanding that can benefit your world. Use it wisely. Ethan accepted the crystal, feeling its warmth pulse against his palm. Before he could ask more questions, the portal reappeared, and the three figures stepped through it, disappearing into the night. Within moments, the field was silent once more, as if nothing had happened. Standing alone under the starlit sky, Ethan clenched the crystal tightly. He knew his life would never be the same. The aliens weren't just visitors. They were watchers, guides, and perhaps even allies. And he, an ordinary mechanic from a sleepy little town, had become a key player in humanity's cosmic journey. As he walked home, the crystal glowing softly in his pocket, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The days following Ethan's encounter with Commander Kale passed in a blur of media attention, government inquiries, and endless speculation. Despite the chaos, Ethan kept the glowing crystal safely hidden in a small wooden box beneath his bed. He hadn't dared to examine it closely, not yet. The weight of what Kyle had entrusted him with felt too immense, too sacred to tamper with recklessly. But every night as he lay awake staring at the ceiling, his mind raced with questions. What secrets did the crystal hold? How could it benefit humanity? And most importantly, what was expected of him? Ethan wasn't the only one grappling with these mysteries. Governments around the world scrambled to make sense of the alien visitation, convening emergency meetings and forming task forces to analyze the implications. Scientists debated whether Earth should prepare for another encounter or focus on understanding the technology hinted at by Kyle. Meanwhile, conspiracy theorists spun wild tales about secret alliances, impending invasions, and hidden agendas. Amidst all this noise, Ethan found himself thrust into the spotlight, a reluctant symbol of humanity's first contact with extraterrestrial life. One afternoon, while walking home from the grocery store, Ethan was approached by two men in dark suits. They introduced themselves as agents from a newly formed global coalition, tasked with addressing extraterrestrial affairs. Their names were Agent Monroe and Agent Patel, and they carried an air of authority that made Ethan uneasy. "We need to talk," Agent Monroe said bluntly, gesturing toward a black sedan parked nearby. "It's important." Ethan hesitated. Trust didn't come easily to him anymore, not after everything he'd been through, but something about their demeanor suggested they weren't there to harm him. Reluctantly, he climbed into the car, clutching the paper bag of groceries tightly in his lap. For the next hour, the agents grilled him about his interactions with the aliens. They asked detailed questions about the Star Destroyers, Commander Kale, and the glowing crystal. Ethan answered honestly but cautiously, omitting any specifics that might compromise the trust placed in him by the aliens. When pressed about the crystal's purpose, he simply shrugged. "I don't know yet," he said. "They told me it contains knowledge. That's all I can tell you." Agent Patel leaned forward, her sharp eyes studying him intently. "Mr. Carter, do you realize the significance of what you've been given? This isn't just some trinket, it's potentially The key to advancing our species. We need to study it. Ethan shook his head firmly. No. They gave it to me. Not to you. Not to anyone else. If I break that trust, who knows what consequences we'll face. Monroe sighed, running a hand through his graying hair. You're right. We don't know. But neither do you. For all we know, this gift could be dangerous. It's our job to protect humanity, Mr. Carter. Let us help you. Ethan clenched his jaw, torn between fear and resolve. He understood their concerns. How could he not? But deep down he knew the crystal wasn't meant for governments or scientists. It was meant for him. I appreciate your concern, he said finally, opening the car door. But this is my responsibility. I'll figure it out. With that, he stepped out of the sedan and walked away, leaving the agents to stew in frustration. As he turned the corner onto his street, he couldn't shake the feeling that he'd dodged a bullet, but also that he was now more alone than ever. That evening, Ethan decided it was time. Sitting cross-legged on the floor of his dimly lit living room, he retrieved the wooden box from beneath his bed and carefully opened it. The crystal pulsed gently in his palm, its glow casting soft waves of light across the walls. Taking a deep breath, Ethan closed his eyes and focused on the warmth radiating from the object. Almost immediately, images began flooding his mind. He saw vast cities floating among the stars, their spires glittering like diamonds against the void. He witnessed creatures of unimaginable forms coexisting peacefully, their lives intertwined, in harmony. He felt the hum of advanced machinery, the flow of energy powering entire civilizations. And then, he heard voices. Not words exactly, but emotions conveyed through sound. Hope, curiosity, resolve. When Ethan opened his eyes, tears streamed down his cheeks. The crystal wasn't just a repository of knowledge. It was a glimpse into a future where humanity had transcended its limitations, a future where people worked together, explored the cosmos, and embraced unity rather than division. It was beautiful and overwhelming. Over the next few weeks, Ethan spent hours each day connecting with the crystal, piecing together fragments of information. He learned about sustainable energy sources, medical advancements capable of curing diseases, and technologies that could revolutionize agriculture and transportation. Each revelation filled him with awe and dread. These gifts had the power to transform Earth, but they also carried risks. Misuse could lead to catastrophe, exploitation, or worse. Determined to use the knowledge responsibly, Ethan reached out to trusted allies. First, he contacted Dr. Elena Morales, a brilliant astrophysicist he'd met during a community science fair years ago. Though initially skeptical, Elena agreed to help after Ethan shared his story and showed her the crystal. Together, they devised a plan to introduce select pieces of alien technology to the world gradually, ensuring transparency and ethical oversight. Next, Ethan sought guidance from spiritual leaders, activists, and educators. He believed that true progress required more than just scientific innovation. It needed compassion, empathy, and wisdom. By building a diverse coalition of thinkers and doers, Ethan hoped to create a foundation for humanity's evolution. But not everyone supported his efforts. Powerful corporations and political factions saw the crystal as an opportunity to gain control or profit. Anonymous threats began arriving in Ethan's mailbox, warning him to hand over the artifact or face consequences. One night, someone broke into his house, ransacking the place in search of the crystal. Fortunately, Ethan had anticipated such attempts and stored the crystal in a secure location known only to him and Elena. Despite the danger, Ethan refused to back down. He knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but he also knew it was necessary. Humanity stood at a crossroads, and the choices made now would shape its destiny for generations to come. Late one night, as Ethan sat poring over notes with Elena, the familiar hum of the portal filled the room. Startled, they both turned to see Commander Kale standing in the doorway, accompanied by Leora, the young alien Ethan had saved. She looked different now, taller and more radiant, her scales shimmering with iridescent hues. Her large eyes sparkled with intelligence and gratitude. "You have done well, Ethan Carter," Cale said, his voice warm yet commanding. "You have shown restraint and wisdom, qualities essential for your role as humanity's guide." Ethan rose to his feet, bowing slightly out of respect. "Thank you," he replied, "but I couldn't have done it alone. There are good people working alongside me, helping to ensure this knowledge is used wisely." Kyle nodded approvingly. "And that is why we chose you. You understand the importance of collaboration, of lifting others up instead of standing alone." Leora stepped forward, placing a delicate hand on Ethan's shoulder. Her touch sent a wave of calm through him, as if she were thanking him silently for saving her life. Then, without warning, she extended her other hand, revealing a second crystal identical to the one Ethan held. "Take this," Cale instructed. "It is a backup, a safeguard should anything happen to the first. Guard it well." Ethan accepted the second crystal, feeling its warmth blend with the first. As Cale and Leora prepared to leave, Ethan called out, "Will we see you again?" Cale paused, turning back with a faint smile. "Perhaps. The universe is vast, but our paths may cross once more. Until then, remember, the stars are not so distant as they seem." With that, the portal reopened, and the two aliens vanished, leaving Ethan and Elena alone in the quiet room. For a long moment, neither spoke. Finally, Elena broke the silence. "So, what's next?" Ethan smiled, clutching the crystals tightly. "We keep going, one step at a time." And so, Ethan embarked on the greatest challenge of his life. Not as a mechanic or a hero, but as a bridge between worlds. Little did he know the journey was far from over. Months turned into years, and Ethan's life transformed in ways he could never have imagined. The quiet mechanic from a sleepy town became a global figurehead, a symbol of hope, unity, and humanity's potential to rise above its flaws. With the help of Dr. Elena Morales and their growing coalition of scientists, educators, and activists, Ethan worked tirelessly to introduce the alien knowledge contained within the crystals to the world. Every step was deliberate. Every decision, weighed carefully to ensure the technology benefited all of humanity, rather than widening existing divides. The first breakthrough came in the form of sustainable energy solutions. Using insights from the crystal, Ethan and his team developed compact fusion reactors capable of powering entire cities without harming the environment. These reactors were distributed gradually, starting with remote villages that lacked access to electricity. As communities thrived under the newfound stability, word spread quickly, inspiring others to embrace change rather than fear it. Next came advancements in medicine. Diseases once thought incurable, cancer, Alzheimer's, even genetic disorders, were tackled with revolutionary treatments derived from alien science. Hospitals around the globe reported unprecedented success rates, and mortality rates plummeted. People who had given up hope found new leases on life, and gratitude toward Ethan and his team grew exponentially. But perhaps the most profound impact came in the realm of education. The alien knowledge wasn't just about technology. It included philosophies, art, and ways of thinking that emphasized harmony, empathy, and interconnectedness. Schools began incorporating these teachings into their curricula, fostering generations of students who viewed themselves not as isolated individuals, but as part of a greater whole. Slowly but surely, humanity started to shift. Not because it was forced to, but because it wanted to. Despite the progress, challenges remained. Powerful corporations and governments resistant to change fought tooth and nail to control the alien technology for their own gain. Some tried to discredit Ethan, painting him as a reckless idealist or even a traitor. Others attempted sabotage, hacking into secure databases or sending mercenaries to steal the crystals. Each attack only strengthened Ethan's resolve. He knew the stakes were high, but he also knew the alternative: letting greed and selfishness dictate humanity's future. One particularly tense incident occurred when a rogue faction infiltrated the facility where the crystals were being studied. Armed, Guards clashed with intruders in a chaotic firefight, forcing Ethan and Elena to flee with the artifacts. They managed to escape unharmed, but the close call left them shaken. It was then that Ethan realized they couldn't keep the crystals in one place any longer. To protect them, and the future, they needed to scatter the knowledge across multiple locations, ensuring no single entity could monopolize it. With Commander Kale's blessing, Ethan divided the data embedded in the crystals into fragments, encoding each piece into secure digital networks hidden throughout the world. Trusted allies safeguarded the physical crystals, keeping them safe in undisclosed locations. Even if one fragment fell into the wrong hands, it would be useless without the others. This decentralized approach made the knowledge nearly impossible to exploit while still allowing humanity to benefit from its applications. As time passed, Ethan's role evolved. No longer the lone hero, he became a mentor, guiding younger generations to carry the torch of progress. He traveled extensively, speaking at universities, conferences, and community gatherings, sharing stories of compassion, courage, and collaboration. His message was simple yet powerful. We are capable of greatness, not because we're perfect, but because we can choose to be better. Leora and Commander Kyle reappeared occasionally, always arriving through shimmering portals to offer guidance or encouragement. Their visits were brief but meaningful, reminding Ethan that humanity wasn't alone in its journey. Leora, now fully grown and radiating an aura of serene authority, often accompanied her father. She regarded Ethan with deep affection, treating him like an elder brother who had shown her the best of what humans could be. During one such visit, Kale delivered news that both thrilled and terrified Ethan. "Your species has reached a critical point," he said gravely. "You've proven yourselves worthy of joining the galactic community. Soon, representatives from other civilizations will arrive to establish formal relations." Ethan's heart raced. "How soon?" "Within your lifetime," Kale replied. "Prepare your people. Unity is key. Those who embrace cooperation will thrive. Those who cling to division will falter." When the aliens departed, Ethan felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. Humanity wasn't ready, not completely, but it was closer than ever before. The road ahead would be difficult, but he believed in the resilience and adaptability of his species. Years later, on a crisp autumn morning, Ethan stood atop a hill overlooking the bustling city below. Skyscrapers gleamed in the sunlight, powered by clean energy sourced from alien designs. Children played in parks equipped with educational tools inspired by extraterrestrial philosophies. In the distance, a fleet of spacecraft launched into orbit, carrying humans bound for Mars and beyond. Humanity had finally taken its place among the stars. Beside him stood Elena, now gray-haired but as sharp-minded as ever. "You did it, Ethan," she said softly, smiling. "You gave us a chance." Ethan shook his head. "Not me, all of us, together." As he gazed at the horizon, a familiar hum filled the air. Turning, he saw a portal materialize nearby, revealing Commander Kyle and Leora. For the first time, they weren't alone. Dozens of alien figures emerged behind them, representing countless civilizations united by curiosity and goodwill. Kyle stepped forward, extending his hand. "Welcome, Ambassador Carter. Your work here is done. Now, let the universe welcome you." Tears welled up in Ethan's eyes as he took Kale's hand. He had risked everything to save a frightened little alien years ago, never imagining it would lead to this moment. But here he was, a bridge between worlds, a testament to the power of kindness and courage. And as he walked through the portal alongside Kale and Leora, leaving Earth behind to explore the cosmos, one thing was certain. The stars were no longer distant, they were home.